All right, everybody, welcome back. We're diving headfirst into something super important today, protecting those precious .NET Core APIs from those nasty DDoS attacks.
Yeah, that's right. APIs, they really are everywhere, aren't they? They kind of run the show in our digital world, but they're a huge target for those with, well, less than noble intentions.
Absolutely. It's scary to think what a DDoS attack could do. Total service disruption, sensitive data going out the window, you name it. Your reputation could be toast.
That's right. But hey, no need to panic just yet.
Exactly. We've got you covered. Today, we're going to break down the best ways to stop these attacks dead in their tracks.
We'll cover everything from rate limiting and IP filtering to encryption and health checks.
I'm going to give you actionable knowledge, folks. By the end of this deep dive, you'll have all the tools you need to build an API defense strategy that's tougher than a $2 steak.
That's a good one.
So, where should we start? Let's kick things off with rate limiting. I mean, the concept seems simple enough on the surface, right?
Yeah, it is in theory, but actually putting it into practice in a .NET Core environment, that's where things get a little tricky.
Exactly. It's not as easy as just flipping a switch. So how do we do it?
Think of it as a traffic cop for your API. You know, like a bouncer at a club.
Ah, I see where you're going with that.
Right. Rate limiting prevents your API from being completely swamped if there's a sudden burst of requests.
So it stops that whole system from being overloaded and crashing.
You got it. Now, in .NET Core, we have this handy tool called the iThrottle middleware.
I throttle a bit aware, okay.
It lets us set very specific limits. We're talking about controlling exactly how many requests a user can make within a given time window.
And you can, like, customize this, right, based on things like their IP address or maybe even an API key.
Absolutely. You can get really specific, even target certain API endpoints that you know are more, I guess you'd say, mission critical or resource intensive.
That's brilliant. It's not just a one-size-fits-all kind of deal.
Not at all. You want to make sure that the most critical functions are always up and running no matter what.
Right, because if those go down, then you're really in trouble.
Exactly. So yeah, rate limiting is all about being smart and strategic about how you allocate your resources.
So kind of like prioritizing VIP access at a big concert, making sure the main act doesn't get drowned out by the noise.
Ah, perfect analogy.
All right, so we've tackled rate limiting. Now let's move on to something that sounds a bit more, well, shall we say exclusive? IP filtering. What's that all about?
Ah, IP filtering. This is where we start getting a little more proactive in our defense. Think of it as a very selective bouncer at the door of your API.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
You can block requests that are coming from specific IP addresses. Heck, you can block entire ranges if they're known to be, let's just say, troublemakers.
So we're talking about actually shutting out certain users based on their IP address.
Precisely. It's a really powerful way to shrink that attack surface to make yourself a smaller target. But, and this is a big but, it needs constant attention. You got to stay on top of things.
Yeah, I bet. I mean, I could see that being a bit risky. What if you accidentally lock out users who are actually legitimate?
That's the balancing act, right?
Yeah.
You need to stay up to date, keep your list of bad actors current.
So you're constantly playing this cat and mouse game with the attacker.
In a way, yeah. You got to have a system in place, whitelisting those good IPs, making sure they're always in the clear.
Right, so the good guys can still get in.
Exactly. And you also got to be really careful about blocking whole geographical regions. That's asking for false positives.
I can see that causing a lot of headaches. It's not like every single IP address from, say, an entire country is going to be malicious.
Exactly. So IP filtering, powerful tool, but you got to use it wisely.
Okay, IP filtering check. Now let's talk encryption. We all know how important SSL/TLS is for general website security, but how does it specifically help protect against DDoS attacks?
Right. Good question. SSL/TLS and its trusty sidekick, HSTS, HTTP, strict transport security, they're like the bodyguards against man-in-the-middle attacks.
Because those can be a real problem during a DDoS attack.
Oh, absolutely. It's not just about protecting the sensitive data. It's about making sure that the whole communication line between your API and its users, that it's secure.
So the commands and instructions, they need to be legit, not tampered with.
Yeah, exactly. Think of it as protecting the integrity of every message being sent.
Makes sense. So it's not just about locking down the data. It's about verifying every single interaction, ensuring that no one's messing with the system in the middle of all that traffic.
Exactly. It's like a security checkpoint confirming the identity of everyone who wants to communicate with your API.
Okay, I'm getting the picture. So encryption, it's not just a nice to have, It's absolutely essential in the fight against DDoS attacks.
Couldn't agree more.
All right, let's shift gears and talk about health checks. I know they're important for monitoring, how well your API is doing overall, but how do they specifically help during a DDoS attack?
So imagine this. Your API is under attack, right? Traffic's going haywire. Health checks are your eyes and ears, your early warning system.
Okay, so they're like the alarm bells.
Pretty much. They'll pick up on unusual spikes in traffic, slow response times, any errors that might suggest your API is starting to buckle under the pressure.
And with that info, you can spring into action. For example.
Exactly. You can scale up your server resources, activate that backup infrastructure you've got ready to go, all that good stuff.
So it's not just about passively watching. It's about triggering those automatic responses, those countermeasures that can actually help mitigate the attack in real time.
Exactly. It's about being proactive, not waiting for things to go south before you act.
I like that. So we've covered a lot of ground here. We've got rate limiting, IP filtering, encryption, and these crucial health checks. But is that all? Or are there other tricks up our sleeve that we can use to build a truly bulletproof DDoS defense?
We've covered the core stuff, the foundation, but there's always more you can do to strengthen your defenses. Think of it like building a fortress.
I'm liking these analogies.
Well, you've got your walls, your gates, but then you add those extra layers of security, the moats, the archers on the towers, and so on.
Right, you make it as impenetrable as possible.
Exactly. And when it comes to DDoS, one of your best allies is a content delivery network, or CDN for short. It takes a lot of the pressure off your main server, the origin server, by caching and distributing your API static content closer to your users.
This is like having multiple outposts, each handling a portion of the traffic.
Exactly. It spreads out the load and makes you much less vulnerable to a concentrated attack. And then you've got web application firewalls, WAFs, often deployed in the cloud. They act as your first line of defense, filtering out all that nasty, malicious traffic before it even gets close to your servers.
So it's like having a whole army of guards patrolling the perimeter.
Exactly. And each layer, each defense mechanism works together to create a truly robust security system.
So it's not about finding one magic solution. It's about building a multi-layered defense strategy, each layer providing a different type of protection, working together to keep those attackers at bay.
Couldn't have said it better myself. It's like a well-coordinated team, each player with a specific role to play, working together to achieve a common goal.
And that goal is keeping those .NET Core APIs safe and sound.
Precisely. It's about understanding the unique vulnerabilities of your API, those potential weak points, and then crafting a defense strategy that's tailored to your specific needs.
So it's not a one-size-fits-all approach. It's about knowing your enemy, knowing yourself, and building a defense that can withstand whatever they throw at you.
Exactly. And remember, the landscape is constantly changing. Attackers are getting more sophisticated all the time, so you need to stay informed, keep learning, and adapt your defenses as needed.
So it's an ongoing process, a constant back and forth between good guys and the bad guys.
That's right. But hey, that's what makes cybersecurity so exciting, right?
Well, it certainly keeps us on our toes. And I think that's a great place to wrap things up.
Sounds good to me.
Knowledge is power, folks. We've given you the tools. Now it's time to put them to good use and fortify those .NET Core APIs.
Absolutely. You've got this.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. Stay safe out there, and we'll catch you next time.
See you then.